The emergency siren inside the Galactic Council's Grand Assembly Hall had not gone off in 412 years. The last time it screamed through those polished obsidian corridors, it was because a rogue comet had clipped the outer ring of Sector 9. Before that, it was a misunderstanding involving a Drelkian ambassador and a plate of something that turned out to be sentient. Today, however, the siren was going off because of humans. Of course it was. Ambassador Vorek of the Thulian Collective stood at the center of the council floor, his 4 eyes blinking in rapid succession, which, for his species, was the equivalent of a grown adult trying very hard not to cry in public. Around him, representatives from 47 civilizations shifted, whispered, and made various sounds of distress. Some clicked their mandibles. Some hissed. One delegate from the Frenet Dominion quietly fainted and had to be carried out by 2 assistants. Vorek cleared his throat, or rather, all 3 of his throats, in sequence. The transmission, he said slowly, was received at 0600 Standard Galactic Time. I will read it aloud. Word for word. Exactly as it was sent. Silence fell across the chamber. Even the ventilation units seemed to hold their breath. Vorek unrolled the slim data scroll and read with the careful pronunciation of someone who was absolutely hoping he had mistranslated it. Effective immediately, the human collective of Earth and its territories is suspending all diplomatic communications, treaty negotiations, trade agreements, and goodwill missions with the Galactic Council and its affiliated bodies. This suspension is indefinite. Have a nice day. Signed, High Director Mara Osei, Office of Human External Affairs. Another pause. Then, from somewhere in the back rows, a single voice broke the silence. Have a nice day, said Councillor Pick of the Xanthari Union, who stood roughly the height of a medium-sized filing cabinet and had the emotional range of a very stressed accountant. They told us to have a nice day? After cutting every single diplomatic channel we have? Yes, said Vorek. That is, Pick stopped, blinked once, that is actually terrifying. And it was. Because the thing about humans, as every civilization in the known galaxy had eventually and painfully learned, was that they did not say something unless they meant it. They did not posture the way the Drelkians did. They did not bluff the way the Xanthari did. They did not send cryptic warnings wrapped in 17 layers of cultural metaphor the way the Thulians themselves were rather famous for doing. When a human said something plainly, directly, and in writing, it meant exactly what it said. Have a nice day was not sarcasm. It was a farewell. And farewells from humans, as history had demonstrated, had a way of being followed by things that made the Galactic Council very, very uncomfortable. Vorek placed the data scroll down and looked out at the assembly. The question before this council, he said, is why? That opened a very large and deeply unpleasant box. Councillor Dera of the Ocean Compact, a tall being who resembled a walking piece of elegant driftwood if driftwood had opinions, stood up with a particularly pained expression. I may, she said carefully, have some insight on that matter. Every eye in the chamber turned toward her. 3 months ago, Dera began, and already the tone of her voice told everyone in the room that this was not going to be a pleasant 3 months. The Compact submitted a formal motion to reclassify the human homeworld, Earth, from Category 1 protected status down to Category 3 advisory status. The motion was based on an updated assessment of their technological development index. Vorek stared at her. And what exactly does downgrading their status mean in practical terms? It means, Dera said, choosing each word like someone carefully choosing which wire to cut, that under Galactic Council law, Category 3 worlds are subject to external resource arbitration if their neighboring sectors file a formal complaint. The chamber erupted. Not metaphorically. Literally erupted. 17 delegates began speaking simultaneously. The Frenet delegate who had fainted earlier woke up, heard the noise, and fainted again. Pick climbed onto his chair to be heard, which mostly just made him look like a very agitated lamppost, and Vorek simply stood very still in the center of it all, processing what he had just heard with the slow, dawning horror of someone who has just realized they left something extremely important on a very active stove. They found out, Vorek said quietly, under the noise. Dera met his gaze. They found out. Vorek closed his eyes. How long do we have before they do something? Dera thought about this with the seriousness it deserved. Director Osei sent that message 4 days ago. Vorek opened his eyes again. Then we are already very late. 4 days. In 4 days, the humans had gone completely silent, and somehow, that was worse than anything they could have actually said. Vorek had not slept. Not because he was incapable of it, but because every time he closed his eyes, he saw the words, "Have a nice day," printed in clean, simple human script, and his brain refused to stop turning them over like a stone hiding something underneath it. He stood now in the Galactic Council's secondary communications wing, surrounded by 12 of the finest diplomatic analysts in the known galaxy, all of whom were staring at blank screens. Every channel to Earth, dead. Every frequency monitored by human relay stations, silent. Even the informal back channels, the kind used for quiet conversations between junior staff over shared meals at neutral space stations, nothing. Not a whisper. "They are not jamming us," said analyst Cora, a young Thulian who had graduated top of her class and was now deeply regretting her career choices. "The channels are open on our end. They are simply not responding." "They are not blocking us," Vorek said. "They are ignoring us." Cora nodded, and the distinction clearly bothered her more than she wanted to admit. There is a specific kind of dread that comes from being ignored by something much larger and much more capable than yourself. The Galactic Council had spent 3 centuries building the comfortable illusion that it sat at the top of the known galaxy's political order. It passed resolutions. It ratified treaties. It issued formal condemnations that carried the weight of 407 member civilizations behind them. Humans had never seemed particularly impressed by any of that, but at least they had shown up. They had sent their ambassadors, sat through the long procedural sessions, filed their responses within the required time frames, and occasionally contributed ideas that the Council adopted and then quietly forgot to credit them for. They had participated, even if they sometimes participated the way a very large and very patient animal participates in a leash walk, tolerating it, going mostly in the right direction, but never quite letting you forget who was actually in control of the situation. Now they had simply stopped showing up. And the galaxy was starting to notice. By the second day of the silence, 3 trade coalitions in Sector 12 had suspended their operations pending reassessment of the current diplomatic climate. By the third day, 2 mid-tier civilizations that had been locked in a border dispute for 60 years quietly and independently reached out to human-adjacent neutral stations requesting mediation, apparently unaware or unwilling to accept that the humans were not currently in the business of mediating anything. By the 4th day, the Ocean Compact stock exchanges had registered a 17% drop in cross-sector commodity values, and Councillor Dera had stopped attending public sessions entirely. Vorek found her in her private office, staring at a small potted plant she kept on her desk, which he had always assumed was decorative but now suspected she was talking to because it was the only thing in her life that was not currently her fault. "We have to send someone," Vorek said from the doorway. Dera did not look up from the plant. "We tried. They declined entry clearance to 3 separate diplomatic vessels. Then we send someone unofficial. We tried that too." Dera finally looked at him. "They let the ship approach. They let it enter their outer orbital zone. Then they hailed it, very politely, told the crew they were welcome to refuel and take on supplies at Lunar Station 7, and that if they had any non-diplomatic inquiries they were welcome to submit them through the standard commercial inquiry portal, processing time 4 to 6 standard weeks." Vorek stared at her. "They routed a diplomatic envoy through a commercial inquiry portal. With an estimated wait time," Dera said, "of 4 to 6 weeks. The silence between them stretched long enough to become its own kind of statement. "They are not angry," Vorek said slowly, working it out as he spoke. "If they were angry, they would be loud about it. Humans are loud when they are angry. We have all seen that. Yes, Dera agreed. They are done, Vorek said. That is different. Done is quiet. Dera nodded and looked back at her plant. Vorek turned and walked back to the communications wing, where Cora was still watching blank screens with the expression of someone waiting for test results they already knew were not going to be good. Send a message, Vorek said quietly. Addressed personally to Director Osei. No council letterhead. No formal protocols. Just my name and my words. Cora looked up. What should it say? Vorek thought about it for a long moment, the full weight of 4 centuries of galactic diplomacy pressing down on him, and then he said the only thing he could think of that a human might actually respond to. Tell her, he said, that we made a mistake. That we are sorry. And that we would very much appreciate the chance to speak with her, at her convenience, whenever she is ready. Cora typed it out, transmitted it, and then they waited. 3 hours later, a single response arrived. Clean. Direct. Exactly as expected from a human. It read, Tuesday works. Bring coffee. We will talk. Vorek sat down slowly in his chair and let out a breath he felt like he had been holding for 4 days straight. Cora looked at him. What is coffee? I have absolutely no idea, Vorek said. But we are going to find out by Tuesday. Friends, if you are enjoying our videos and want to watch new and exciting sci-fi and HFY stories every day, then don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Also, make sure to turn on the bell icon so you never miss any of our latest uploads. Like the video and share it with your friends as well, so our community can continue to grow and bring you even more amazing content.